You ever wondered why people are afraid of a black collective? Like, seriously, anything that has the title black in it and people portray it to be violent, people portray it to be completely, totally negative, and it gets bad connotations, right? But we'll get into some of that here in just a little bit. Y'all stay tuned and hang loose. Hey, y'all, welcome to another episode of the Principled Statesman, where we keep things on principle, we keep it on even keel, and we apply the principles in both directions, see what the outcomes are going to be, because the only way we're going to learn from this life experience is to apply the same principles in every situation that you apply to yourself, no matter what those principles are, right? Whether they're liberal principles or conservative principles or libertarian principles, you have to apply them equally and see what the outcome is instead of just running away with something, right? So today we're going to get into why a black collective or anything black, right, that says black has a bad connotation attached to it. And it has forever. I mean, this is just fact, right? And the reactions of people when they hear something black, right? They completely jump off the hinges, and they're completely, I guess, caught off guard or what have you, whatever it may be. It could be just simple ignorance or whatever that case may be. But we're going to get into that here real quick. But before we do me a favor, if you would, run over to donate.bpmg.us. And over here, you can support this channel. There's a PayPal option, a Patreon option, and a Buy Me a Coffee option. And all the proceeds from this goes to helping me keep this going. It helps me to be able to go to different events to speak on behalf of principled people, principled conservatives in this movement. So just donate.bpmg.us, and I greatly appreciate that. So getting into the subject matter, over the years, anytime we've seen a collective group or collective movement come together, it always has a negative stripe on it. All the time, because it's bad to be a collective unless it's your collective, right? I mean, we look at the big controversy right now with white supremacy, right? The collectivism of white nationalism, right? And how they paint that with such a bad stroke, right? And at the same time, they say black nationalists are bad and black separatists, they all paint these groups with negative connotation because it doesn't jive with their narrative, right? We even see it with Black Lives Matter. Now, though I am not, I don't advocate for the way they practice their freedom of speech with violence in some cases or libeling people, but the premise behind it and the original premise behind Black Lives Matter, I understand that 100% and I get it, right? But the violence that comes with it, I don't support. And look at the broad stroke they've been brushed with, because they did the same exact thing when they talk about white supremacists or white nationalists. These people are getting the same thing that's coming back to them because they broad brush the same way. I mean, again, apply the principle, right? If you think this collective group is bad, but you have the moral high ground as a collective group, but you're participating in an activity that is not peaceful, then what do you expect the stroke you're going to get? Let's look at the Black Panthers, right? Black Panthers were deemed basically a terrorist organization, and J. Edgar Hoover started a op called COINTELPRO, where they went in and basically dismantled these nationalist organizations. The CIA killed Huey P. Newton in his sleep, and they tried to lie and say, "Oh no, he was shooting back at us." When it was proven in the autopsy that Huey P. Newton was shot in the back of his head while he was sleeping in his bed. He was not a threat at all. But when you broad brush a group of people a certain way, people are going to react a certain way, right? Which brings us here to present day. There's a group called NFAC, or better, or the actual name is Not Effing Around Coalition, right? And what this is a group of former black military personnel that is part of this movement. They're anti-government movement, right? They don't want to expand government. They want government out of their lives, right? And they're militiaed up, right? And you can compare them to the 3%ers, right? They're a white militia, they're anti-government, etc., right? But see, because it has the word black in it, we've seen outrage from a lot of white folks over this, because they're walking around carrying arms and stuff like that. But here's the thing: when did the Second Amendment only apply to one set of people? When did the Constitution start applying to one set of people? Let's really think about this logically, right? When did it apply? Do we just take their rights away because they're black and want to carry guns, but don't want to apply the same principle to the white folks? You see what I'm saying? Or the Asian militia, that there's a couple in this country, right? The Muslim militia, do we pull it from them too? I mean, let's stay on principle, people. You can't be mad because someone exercises their rights. And I got a couple stories for you. And how all this really started out was after the Breonna Taylor situation. This NFAC went to Louisville to protest, and the 3%ers automatically showed up, thinking that it's going to be completely violent, etc. And they ended up walking away, without no conflict. Right? Let's read the story real quick. Two opposing heavily armed militia groups came within a few dozen yards of each other in downtown Louisville on Saturday in a tense standoff that ended without violence, but marked an escalation after 2 months of ongoing protests over police shooting of a black woman, which is Breonna Taylor in this case. More than 300 members of the Atlanta-based militia NFAC, or Not Effing Around Coalition, came to Louisville demanding justice for 26-year-old Breonna Taylor, an ER technician who was fatally shot by officers in March. Wearing all black and carrying assault rifles, members marched in military-style formation from Baxter Park in the Russell neighborhood in Metro Hall, where they stopped around 2:45 at police barricades. Right across was a similar group of 50 far-right 3%er militia members who were also heavily armed. The opposing militia said it showed up in response to NFAC and to aid police. As the two sides neared, 1%er yelled, "Don't fire unless fired upon," as police and riot gear stood nearby and helicopters buzzed. Police kept the sides apart and tensions eventually dissipated. Both militias had said they wanted to avoid violence. John Grandmaster J. Johnson founded the NFAC, delivered a fiery speech calling for local and state officials to speed up and be more transparent about the investigation into Taylor's shooting. Okay, see, and this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the equal application of rights and principles, etc. Right? Now, I have nothing against the 3%ers, right? I have nothing against them. I know 3%ers, okay? And I know a few people that's in the NFAC, right? But here's the thing. Here's my thing for the 3%ers, right? Here's my thing. If you're going to march out and you're going to support police, right, because a black militia is in town, think about this a minute, right? This is so many layers deep, right? And it goes back to the thing, oh, they're black and they're carrying guns, so they automatically want to attack the police. That's the logic of thinking that's going on here. This is the logic of thinking, right? Really think about that a minute. You know, you're continuing the narrative that black people are violent, black people are super predators, right? We have to stop that narrative. We don't have a choice but to stop that narrative because it's going to get people hurt, right? And at the same time, we have Antifa and other anti-American communist, anti-capitalist groups that are tearing up cities, wearing all black with Molotov cocktails, etc. Why aren't the 3%ers showing up to that stuff to back the police? You see what I'm getting at here? Like, don't apply part of your principle somewhere else and then apply it, you know what I mean? And don't apply it elsewhere. You know? I mean, you have more of a chance of conquering these anti-Americans, these communists that want to burn down buildings and cities and stuff. If you collaborated with NFAC, if these two groups collaborated, they could stomp out a lot of this insurrection and rebellion. But because it has black in it, people want to get offensive right from the jump. And we have to get away from that, right? That's what they call implicit bias, right? This is the implicit bias they're talking about right here, right? Now, people are going to say to me, oh, well, the 3%ers are white supremacists. They're not. They're not. Leave that ghost in the closet. The 3%ers are not white supremacists. And that's another narrative we have to change too, is just because a group of white folks get together and want to be a militia or what have you does not mean they are white supremacists. See, we have to get away from that too, right? If you don't want to be labeled a certain way, then don't label people a certain way. Because at the end of the day, they still have the freedom to organize the way they want to. We're fighting with ourselves over this issue and not fighting the true enemy, the communist, the Fabian socialist, right? The people that are destroying our cities and burning it down. And it's not all BLM people. You know what I mean? It's these Antifa types, right? And if you want to really keep it real, think about this a second. Why is Black Lives Matter 90% white? Now, we want to talk about white supremacy. That is the epitome of white supremacy. The same thing they tried to do in the 60s to the civil rights movement, right, guys? Same thing they tried to do was try to co-opt the civil rights movement and create this chaos on the backside to delegitimize the civil rights movement, right? But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. They did not prevail. And we cannot allow that history to repeat itself here, right? We need to support, you know, the people that are actually legitimately part of Black Lives Matter, that don't want nothing to do with any of that violence. I mean, I've talked to Black Lives Matter leaders across the country over the last few weeks, and a lot of them have told me straight up on the word that when they go to protest and they see white people, they walk away. They walk away because they know what has happened and what has came around. And I wish more of them would be more public about that to more legitimize their movement. But a lot of them told me straight up, they walk away because we know the chaos will ensue soon after the fact. Right. And they know the protest will be hijacked, and it'll be turned into, oh no, Black Lives Matter, burn it down. Well, just because people hold up a sign that says Black Lives Matter does not say that they are part of Black Lives Matter. They're a part of it, and we're still broad brushing people in this regard, right? So, you know, we have to make sure that we watch, you know, how we brush people, how we judge a group of people, you know, based on what you think you know, or what you might know, or what you've heard. right? Again, do your own research into this. So let's get back into this story here. After the shooting of that young man in Louisiana, the NFAC showed up in Lafayette, Louisiana, and they protested in formation through the streets, and all that good stuff. Let's go ahead. Let's read the story. And this one's actually out of CNN, and it's actually a decent piece. I'm actually shocked. A protest organized by a Black paramilitary group and attended by several community groups ended peacefully Saturday in Lafayette, Louisiana, despite the arrest of one person who police said accidentally fired a weapon at the event, which he did. The weapon discharged into the ground. It was a shotgun, and a couple of the pellets came out and hit a couple people, right? No one was seriously injured or anything like that, but it was an accidental discharge. I don't know if the person has been released from jail or not with no charges. Obviously we'll find that out later. It says that more than 400 armed demonstrators with the NFAC came to the city to protest the death of Trayford Pellerin, a 31-year-old Black man who was fatally shot by police in August. Now, the Trayford Pellerin thing, that was the incident with a gentleman had a knife, and they didn't see that he dropped the knife because it was the dead of night, and they ended up shooting him anyway. So that I'm not going to get into the controversy of that, etc. This is I'm just letting you know why NFAC was there. Now, the leader of the group, Mr. Johnson, said that they decided to go to southern Louisiana City after seeing a Facebook post allegedly from United States Rep. Clay Higgins, who represents a 3rd district. According to CNN affiliate KATC, the September 1st post, which has since been deleted, included photos of Black armed demonstrators and warned that if such protesters came to Lafayette, he would drop 10 of them where you stand. So, which brings me to this story. And our Acadiana advocate, Clay Higgins, says on Facebook that armed demonstrators won't walk away from Louisiana protest. And again, that goes back to what I just said previously, right? About this connotation that something Black, right? Something Black has to be automatically bad, right? That was the complete reactionary defensive mode of someone, right? That wasn't nowhere, okay, I know why they're here. They're not even thinking. They just blurted it out there and thought it was cool and found out real quick it was not cool, because it's not cool, right? I mean, this is how people get profiled, right? This is how people get profiled because of what they believe, and they're like, oh, Black man with a gun, violent, right? We've seen that, right? We have seen that where a Black man has had a gun in the vehicle or said he's had a gun in the vehicle, Philando Castile, and got shot anyway, right? Again, that's I hate talking about biases, but that is kind of an implicit bias, right? And we have to change that behavior of broad brushing people a certain way, or allowing people to broad brush a certain way without any pushback, right? So let's continue on. After all of this happened, and the protest was ended peacefully in Lafayette, etc., the leader NFAC had a phone call with Representative Higgins, and they basically made peace about it. He actually recorded a phone call. Mr. Johnson did. John J. Fitzgerald Johnson recorded the phone call and posted it. And you can go find that, I'm sure. But this is what happens, right? Stories like this happen because people want to learn a bigger and higher understanding of what people are about instead of being a reactionary, right? This should have been the reverse, right? The Representative Higgins should have been like, okay, what are these guys about, right? and then say boom, 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 boom. Not talking about want to drop 10 of them because they're exercising their Second Amendment right and their First Amendment right. See, we have to completely cut this out, cut this short at all cost, right? And we need to get along better as a people, not want to throw around labels on people because they believe a certain way or there is a race attached to it, etc. You know what I mean? So with that, let me know what you think down in the comments below down there. Do you agree with the fact that we shouldn't be broad brushing people because of, you know, whatever preconceived notions that we have? Or do you think that NFAC is in the wrong? Or do you think Representative Higgins is in the wrong? Let me know in the comments, etc. And until next time, stay easy, stay blessed, and peace.